os, vil vi vælge at tro på. Så er Benjamin også ankommet. Benjamin har lige vundet sølv i taekwondo, og er derfor ikke kunne være her før nu. Og vi sidder og venter på Prinsesse Marie, som skal komme og læse et eventyr for os.
Have you heard a little bit? Yes. So you will understand that. And you obviously know Christian Andersen. Yeah? Holger the Day. In Denmark, there's an old castle at Elsing called Holger. It juts out into the Sound, where every day the big ships sail past in hundreds. English, Russian, and Prussian. They fire a salute to the old castle with their guns. Boom! And the castle guns answer back. Boom! That's the guns' way of saying good morning and many thanks. In winter, when the Sound is frozen hard right across to Sweden, the ships can sail there. It's more like a great big road, where the Danish and Swedish flags are flying and the Danish and Swedish people say good morning and many thanks to each other, though not with guns. No, they do it with a friendly shaking of hands. And they get white bread and biscuits from each other, and because other people's do taste best. Still, the real gem of it all is old Kronborg. It's down below this that Holger the Dane sits in the deep dark cellar to which nobody comes. He is clad in iron and steel, with his head resting on his brawny arms. His long beard hangs down over the marble table, into which it has grown fast. There he sits and dreams, but as he dreams, he sees everything that's going on up here in Denmark. On Christmas Eve, an angel of God comes and tells him that what he has dreamt is quite true, and that he may go to sleep again, as Denmark is not yet in real danger. But if ever she is, well then old Holger the Dane will stand up, so that the table will split in two when he wrenches his beard free. Out he will come and strike, till his blows resound in every country on earth. An old grandfather sat telling all this story about Holger the Dane to his little grandson, and the boy knew that what Granddad said was true. And while the old man was telling his tale, he was carving a large wooden figure, which was supposed to be Holger the Dane, and would be placed on the forepart of a ship. For the old grandfather was a wood carver, or rather a man who cuts out figureheads, after which every ship is to be named. And there he had cut out Holger the Dane, who stood so straight and proud, with his long beard, holding his broad sword in one hand and leaning on the coat of arms of Denmark with the other. And the old grandfather told so many stories about remarkable Danish men and women that at last his little grandson felt that now he knew quite as much as Holger the Dane, who after all only dreamt about it. The boy went to bed. His thoughts were so full of it all, and he pressed his chin well down into the bedcloth and felt he had a beard which had grown right into them. But the old grandfather stayed, sitting at his work and carved away at the last part of it, the Danish coat of arms. And now he had finished, and he looked at the whole thing and thought, of all he had read and heard, and all he had told the boy that evening, he gave a nod and wiped his spectacles and said as he put them on again, "No, I don't suppose Holger the Dane will come in my time, though the boy over in that bed may possibly get to see him and be there when it comes to the pitch." And the old grandfather nodded again. The more he looked at his Holger the Dane, the more certain he became that he was a good figure he had made. It fairly seemed to glow, and the armor shone like iron and steel. The 9 hearts in the Danish arms looked redder and redder, and the lions capered in their golden crowns. "It's the grandest coat of arms in the world," cried the old man. "The lions stand for strength, and the hearts for gentleness and love." He looked at the top lion and thought of King Canute, who made great England subject to the Danish throne. He looked at the second lion and thought of Valdemar, who brought all Denmark together and subdued the Wendish lands. And he looked at the third lion and thought of Margaret, who united Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. But as he looked at the red hearts, they gleamed more brightly than ever. They turned into flames that moved, and his thoughts followed each of them. The first flame led him into a dark, narrow cell. There sat a prisoner and a beautiful woman, Christian the 4th daughter, Leonor Christina, and the flame settled like a rose on her breast and blossomed together with the heart of her who was the noblest and best of all Danish women. "Yes," said the old grandfather, "that's certainly a heart in Denmark's coat of arms." And his thoughts followed another flame, which led him out to the sea, where the guns roared and the ships lay shrouded in smoke, and the flame pinned itself like a ribbon on Hvitfeldt's chest as he blew himself up with his ship to save the fleet. And a third flame led him to the wretched huts of Greenland, to which the priest Hans Egil brought love by word and deed. The flame was a star on his breast, a heart in the Danish coat of arms. And the old grandfather's thought went on ahead of the flickering flame, and they knew where the flame would go. In the peasant woman's humble parlor, Frederick VI stood and chalked his name on the beam. The flame quivered on his breast, quivered in his heart. In the peasant's cottage, his heart became a heart on Denmark's shield. And the old grandfather wiped tears from his eyes, for he had known and lived for King Frederick with the silvery hair and honest blue eyes. He folded his hands and looked silently in front of him. Then his son's wife came in and said that it was getting late, now he must have a rest, and anyhow, supper was late. "But I said, this is lovely what you've done, Granddad," she said, "Holger the Dane and the whole of our old coat of arms, since I've seen that face before." "No, you can't have done it," replied the old man, "but I've seen it, and I've tried to carve it in wood the way I remember it. It was that time the English ships lay in the roads on our Danish 2nd of April, where we showed we were true Danes. On board the Denmark, I had a man beside me. It was just as if the cannonballs were afraid of him. He kept singing old songs in the jolliest way and fired and fought like a Superman. I can still remember his face, though where he came from or where he went afterwards, I never knew. Nobody knew. I often thought it may have been Holger the Dane himself, who had swamped down from Cornwall to help us in dangerous hour. Well, that was a notion I had, and there stands his likeness. The figure threw its great shadow all the way up to the wall, even over the part of the ceiling. It looked as if it were really Holger the Dane himself standing there behind it. For the shadow moved, but it might also have been because the flame in the candle didn't burn steady. And his son's wife kissed the old grandfather and led him to the big armchair by the table. And she and her husband, who you see was the old man's son and the father of the little boy who lay in bed, sat and ate their supper. And the old grandfather spoke about Danish lions and the Danish hearts, about strength and gentleness. And very clearly he showed how there was another kind of strength besides that of the sword. He pointed to a shelf full of books, among which were all Holberg's plays that were often read because they were so amusing, and you really felt you knew all the characters in them from bygone days. There, look, he knew how to carve too, said the old grandfather. He hacked away at the follies and oddities of people for all he was worth. And the old man nodded across the looking glass, where the calendar with a picture of the round tower on it was put up, and said, Tycho Brahe was another who used the sword, not to hack at flesh and bone, but to carve a clear way up among all the stars in the sky. And then he too, whose father's calling was the same as my own, he whom we've seen ourselves with his white hair and broad shoulders, he whose name is known in every country of the world. Yes, he was a sculptor. I'm only a carver. You see, Holger the Dane can come in many shapes, so that the whole earth may hear of Denmark's strength. So let us drink to the health of Bello Thorvaldsen. But the little boy in bed could plainly see all Cornwall Castle, and the sound, and the real Holger the Dane sitting far below with his beard grown fast to the marble table, and dreaming of all that went on overhead. Holger the Dane was dreaming too, and the humble little room where the wood carver sat, he heard everything that was said, and nodded in his sleep and said, That's right, don't forget me, you Danish people. Bear me in mind, and I'll come in the hour of need. Off Cornwall the sun was shining in broad daylight, and the wind carried the notes of the huntsman's horn across from our next-door neighbors in Sweden. The ship's bell passed the eye of the sea, boom, boom, and from Cornwall came the answer.